Hey there. Welcome to episode 11 of the Boob Report podcast, powered by Helix Interactive. Today, I'm hanging out with Regina Toppelson, an integrative and functional medicine certified practitioner. Try saying that fast 5 times, who has some great information to share. I can't wait. Let's get started. All right. So we are super excited today. We have an amazing woman on, and we're going to talk about nutrition. So, hey, Regina, how's it going?
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We were laughing in our little quote unquote green room before we hopped on, and we're just going to riff it today with all good things in nutrition because we're very excited. Regina has a podcast, and we'll tell you guys more about that towards the end of the show. But she has an amazing podcast that we'll have links to send you to. But I want Regina to start out just a little bit about telling us about her journey with her diagnosis and what she does with helping other women.
Thanks, Michelle. So first of all, I just want to say I so appreciate being here with you today. And my story was that I was already a dietitian when I got my diagnosis. I had been a dietitian for 3 years. I was working for a local hospital in town. I actually became a dietitian because my kids had food allergies when they were born. And so I wanted to go into nutrition so that I could help other children and other families with food allergies. And when I had started my private practice back in the day when I was still working for the hospital, my whole thought process is that I would be, helping people with gut issues, food allergies, food sensitivities, and that sort of thing. I never in a million years dreamed that I would have to use my own education, my own knowledge to help myself out of a sticky situation. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I begin. And when I did get my diagnosis, I had to shut down my private practice because I just couldn't do both. I didn't have the bandwidth anymore to take care of myself the way I needed to and to continue my hospital job. And I needed to do that because my whole family had insurance through me, and it was through the hospital job. Mm-hmm. And so I was not one of those people. And I actually kind of look back on it and say, thank God, right? Yeah. There are people who, when they're going through cancer treatment, right, they just kind of pull back from the world, mm-hmm. right? They chillax on the couch, they watch TV all day or read books or whatever it is that they do, and they just kind of chillax. And I know that some people don't have the wherewithal to do much more than that, mm-hmm. but I'm very, very grateful that I had something to sustain me and keep me going.
Right.
And
right.
to also that I had something to look forward to be able to go to my job, to be able to see people that cared about me, to work with other professionals, and to stimulate my mind. Mm-hmm. Because without that, I don't know, it's very easy to get lost in chemo brain. It's just this like fog that takes over, and you just can get lost in that fog. I don't even know where you'd go.
It's interesting to me, and I've been very open about this. I did not have to do chemo or radiation. I was very lucky in that fact. So when I would sort of lose myself and go to a different place, or, just forget things, I would kind of joke with my friends, and I'm like, well, I don't have chemo brain. I didn't have to do chemo, but it's just the whole traumatic stress on your body of getting a diagnosis like that. It just sends everything into a tailspin.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So I stayed at the hospital job, and I continued to just take care of myself and do that. And what was the first part of your question? Oh, so, yeah. Right. So then as a dietitian too, right? I mean, so a year later, a year after my treatment, I did restart my private practice. But what I had realized at that point was that my private practice was solely nutrition based. Mm-hmm. Actually, it used to be called Integrated Nutrition Solutions, right?
Okay.
And it was solely, based on what's on your plate. And fast forward a year, I realized what life is so much more than what's on your plate, right? There's just so
Right.
much more to life. And so what I did was I restarted my private practice under Life Well Lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so new name, new practice concept, but the practice concept came out of my realization about life, right? And wanting to have a fuller life and not be so concerned about what's on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm still a dietitian. I can't get away from that.
Right.
And truth be told, that cancer really is, and not always, sometimes it is genetic, sometimes it does run in families. You can't get away from BRCA1 and BRCA2, but that was not my case. I was not BRCA positive or anything else positive. We've done the genetic testing, and as far as I can tell, like, they have not identified or found or whatever, or maybe it just wasn't there. Maybe, I will tell you, statistically, 70% are of newly diagnosed breast cancers every year are
Mm-hmm.
not genetic.
Oh yeah, mine wasn't. There's no history of
Exactly.
cancer in my family. Yeah,
Right.
none.
No history of cancer of
Mm-hmm.
any kind in my family. And
Yeah.
so, looking for that needle in a haystack, it has, that's why it hasn't turned up, because maybe it's like not even there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, um, I do believe in that case, it is so much more about the way that we live our lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's about how we take care of ourselves and what we do with our lives. And it is somewhat about what's on our plate,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no amount of, what I always say is, there's no amount of supplements that are gonna negate a bad diet,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting crap on your plate, there's no supplement that's gonna fix that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to start with, and food, the way that we nourish ourselves really is one of the ways that we show self-care to ourselves, and maybe, if you're looking at your plate and there's no color there and there's no joy on that plate, right? Everything's brown, everything's beige,
Uh-huh.
except for maybe the dollop of ketchup, which is kind of like it's
Like
like
a
a
staple.
burgundy red. It's
Yeah.
not like even a bright red. It's just kind of like, a muted red.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the only color that's on your plate, well, that says a lot about how you feel about yourself as a
Mm-hmm.
person, as a human being, and how you want to feed and nourish yourself.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. It's funny. My husband and I joke about this. When I met him, he was divorced with two young kids, our son and daughter. And he told me, I'm not going to be a fast food dad. I'm not going to be, just driving through the fast food and all that, because I'm tired when I get home from work and I've just picked them up from their moms and this and that. So I was very impressed with my husband's menu, and how the kids ate. I mean, I had a 5 and 6 year old sitting in front of me eating salmon, eating asparagus, eating broccoli, just eating all these vegetables and loving fruit and this and that. And that really made an imprint on me, because when I met him, not gonna lie, I had a crappy diet. I was
Yeah.
single, I ate out, I did whatever. So I literally, when we started dating, I lost about 10 pounds, and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't change the amount I was eating. I just changed what I was eating.
Right.
Yeah.
Dating was good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's my Prince Charming in every sense of the word, let me tell you.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think nutrition plays a huge part of it, but also your mindset, and living a good life. As far as stress, I mean, I was talking to another person that, my deal with stress.
Mine
I
too.
I lived on stress. Yeah, you and I've talked about this too. It's amazing the type of stress that women, more often than not, will put
Right.
themselves through.
Yeah. And stress management is another thing that I talk about.
Mhm.
So me, myself, being a dietitian, I ascribe to this thing called lifestyle medicine,
Mhm.
right? And lifestyle medicine talks about certain things six particular things that are related to health specifically. So diet, exercise, stress, sleep, relationships, and toxins.
Mhm.
Okay. And these are all things that I talk about in my realm, in my business, and when it comes to, I have a program for cancer survivors, and so these are things that I talk about within my program as well. The program's called Wings of Hope, and
Mhm.
so these are, I have broken it down into 6 weeks, for one session each week. And these are the different topics that we talk about in there because these are the pillars of lifestyle medicine, right?
Right.
So diet being the first one, right? We just talked about that you've got to eat well in order to feel well, right?
Right.
But then the other pillars are equally important. And stress is something that I think we hear a lot about it in the ether, whether it's on the news or from our friends, or that we almost like wear it like a badge of courage, right? I'm so stressed out, and
Mhm.
everybody's talking about how they're so stressed out and how they don't sleep, and but they're, these weekend warriors because they can do all these things with like 2 hours of sleep a night. I'm like, you know what? You're killing yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like, honest to goodness, like,
Mhm.
stop it because you're killing yourself slowly.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we don't talk about stress in terms of how to manage stress. We talk about, like I said, we wear it as a badge of courage, like a, Purple Heart,
Mhm.
this, I have stress. It's not great to live with stress, And so, from a perspective of stress management and seeing how that is a pillar of lifestyle medicine, this is something that I talk about with my clients a lot
Mhm.
because stress can wreak havoc on your body
Mhm.
in horrible, horrible ways. And it
Oh.
will also mess with your sleep, which is another very important piece of the puzzle.
Mhm.
But stress and the release of cortisol, um, it just wreaks havoc on all the different systems of your body.
Right.
It makes your heart beat faster. I mean, it's that whole fight or flight response. And when we were meant to have that response for a very good reason, right?
Mhm.
Because if there was some reason that we needed to save our life in a moment's notice, like, we should be able to get up and run, right? But in that moment where we're getting up and running, everything else is shutting down. Blood is being shunted away from your brain and your gut and all the other things, your immune system. It's being shunted away from all those places into your legs, like, run as fast as you can,
Yeah.
right? um and so, but when we live under those conditions, you know
Mhm.
for more than, like, let's say you need that for like half an hour until you've gotten to safety,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
when you live like that for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours a day, or
Mhm.
maybe 24 hours a day because it's stopping you from sleeping, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I actually used to live that way. I mean, I, would network, and then come home, be with my husband and the kids. They'd go to bed. Then I'd, work for several hours.
Right.
And you're right. It was like a badge of honor for me that, oh, I work 12, 14-hour days. I'm a rock star. Well, it was killing me. It was, that's probably one of the contributing factors, along with, I still had a little bit of a crappy diet, but also environment and other things that more than likely led to me being diagnosed. Maybe that was my body's way of saying, um, you need to slow down,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, now in regards to that, as far as, stress and things like that, tying nutrition into that, you are working on you have the podcast going as well, and
Do
you're
have the
an
podcast.
awesome health contributor for 9 News locally here in the Denver
Yep.
metro area in Colorado. But you're also working on a talk you were telling me about.
I am working on a talk, yes. And it's more of like the same of what I just talked about. It is the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, plus a couple other things that I really kind of feel like, you know, we just can't live a full life without these things. And I don't really, so the 2 other things are spirituality and purpose.
Okay.
Right. And so now there's 8 things that we're talking about. So the 6 from before, and plus the spirituality and purpose. And I really think, like, even if you're an atheist or you're someone who doesn't really believe in God or the universe or that there's anything bigger than what we are, that's fine. But there's even a sense of like gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess, if you're having a sense of gratitude, then you're grateful to someone or something for the goodness that you've received. Right. But I guess you don't have to say, well, I'm grateful to God if you don't believe in God. I personally do. So, but you don't have to say that, or you don't have to say that, I'm grateful to the universe. You can just say, I have gratitude in my heart. I'm grateful today because, the sun is shining and it's warm, as opposed to, sometimes it's freezing cold outside.
Exactly.
And but you could also just say, I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head and a warm bed to lay in, or that I have food on my table, or those are, like, we're talking about basic needs, right? But there's so much to be grateful for. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my family. There's so many things to be grateful for. Right, that even if you're not saying that you're grateful to someone or something, just the feeling of gratitude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I mean, I'm grateful every day. I have this thing that I say, I'm upright breathing with a pulse.
There you go. That is
Seriously.
A perfect thing to be grateful for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally here able to do this. I'm able to, watch my daughter in her senior year of college and all the amazing things she's going to get to do. So no, I absolutely agree with you on that. I think installing gratitude in, and just even saying thank you for the little things. I woke up this morning. I've got fun tennis shoes to wear. I think that leads to something bigger, and it helps with your overall attitude, which also, it helps with your health.
That's right. Yeah, your attitude is a very, very big piece of it. And therein too, so the second part of that is the living with purpose, right? And your attitude plays into that, right? Because if you wake up in the morning and you say, okay, well, I'm grateful I woke up, but now what?
Yeah.
Right. But now what means that you don't know what you're doing or where you're going or what's going to happen. You don't have a life of purpose, right? But if you wake up in the morning and you say, well, I'm grateful I woke up this morning, because, now I have an opportunity to see my friend today and make a positive difference in their life, or to record a podcast today and make a positive difference in someone else's life. Or, the thing is that, like, what brings us joy most of the time, and I will say I've interviewed 30 some odd people for my podcast. And almost every time, when I ask, what brings you joy, a lot of times, people will say something about giving back. Giving to others, they don't say, well, I get lots of joy when I buy stuff online. When I get that package in the mail every day, right? Yes, that probably does bring you joy for like a whopping 2 minutes, right. And then literally you get that hit of dopamine that's like, oh, I got a package, how exciting, and then you're like, and now what? And if you don't have purpose, if you don't have an aim, if you don't know where you're going, you're aimless, right? And so therefore, the attitude has to be, I have something to live for.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. It's, I try to put gratitude in where I can. I mean, even, during the rough days, and I'm sure you're the same way, there were some days where it literally took everything I had to get out of bed. Everything I had, the pain, the depression, all of that. But once I got up and I started moving, I was still in pain, not going to lie, until I had the implants replaced, but I was able to to function and move towards something. And I know for a lot of people, that's not always easy, but if you can just take those first steps, kind of push yourself forward, I think it's going to help you in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And life is like anything, it's one step at a time, right?
Hmm.
I mean, people will ask, well, my favorite, again, quote is the journey of the thousand steps begins with the first one, or whatever that quote is, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think it is that way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like some of the things that I have done and I think about, I've hiked 8 14ers. Well, it
You
does.
are a rock star.
I know, thank you. But like I say that, but it doesn't, like, it didn't happen in a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happened with one foot in front of the other. It happened
Hmm.
step by step. And by the way, that is like one of the best moving meditations that I can think of. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because you are out there for like a good 6 to 8 hours. And it literally is this meditative process where it teaches you that things don't happen in an instant. It
Hmm.
takes 4 hours to get up. It takes another 2 hours to get down. And by the time you're up, you're ready to be down.
Yeah.
You've been out there and you've been working hard for 4 hours and you're like, I'm ready to be done. You've got another 2 hours to get down. And you have to have the mental capacity to say, okay, I have to somehow like rein it in
Yeah.
and feel it and wait wait for that gratification of, okay, now I'm down and I can say that I've climbed another 14er, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or whatever it is that you're doing. But I really think that, like, if you set yourself a goal that doesn't have instant gratification, it teaches you patience,
Hmm.
you know.
Oh, I think, yeah, that I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the problem with today's society right now, not to get all philosophical or anything like that, but it's all about the instant gratification. And that's, I think that if it's something that you have to work towards, it's something you have to build on and learn to work your way through, I think you appreciate it so much more, so
Right.
much more.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this journey with cancer, for me, it's made me appreciate the life I have, so much more. I mean, I'm incredibly blessed. I have amazing parents, I have brothers, sister-in-laws, nieces, nephews. Um, I've got an amazing group of friends, a wonderful husband and two kids.
Right.
So, and I get to run my own business and I get to do something like this, help other women with
Right.
their journey. So, yeah, I mean, the process itself sort of sucked, but look where I am now,
Right.
you know?
And it's one step in front of the other,
Hmm.
you know, e- each way. And with everything that you do, you don't get a stellar business overnight. You don't just hang your shingle and, like, it's day by day working on it,
Hmm.
and little by little. And you have, that's the way the world works. You don't, my other favorite saying is that overnight sensations usually take 10 years. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, you don't become a rock star in two
Mhm.
seconds. I mean, even the people that achieve really great success, it takes a long time to get noticed, for people to see you, for people to understand what you do, for people to agree with it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And yes, one step in front of the other, little by little, each day, as you work towards your goals, then you start to see that success. And
Yeah.
it's the same with recovering from cancer,
Hmm.
or really from anything.
Do you find, I've found this just in my experience and talking to different women who have gone through the process and they've reached the survivor thriver part of their journey. Um, I- the I don't want to say lack, but not as many doctors see the different alternative ways to look at going through treatment and support. For example, I use this. My surgeon, before I had my surgery, set me up with a physical therapist that I went and saw before I had my surgery. And then 3 weeks after, I was going to see her weekly. I would have never thought physical therapy. I mean, they removed breast tissue. Why would I need physical therapy? But it is so needed. And I'm amazed at how many women, their doctors never suggested that to them. And I just, the different varying degrees of treatment and support that are out there.
Right. So, and I agree. First of all, you have to be your own advocate,
Mhm.
right? And it's true, like not all doctors they're not all the same,
Mhm.
And so I think before you even sign up, first thing, for most women have to understand is that when you get your diagnosis, it's they're not saying to you, get her on a gurney, we got to get to the OR stat,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
They tell you, oh, we're so sorry, and then you go home and you cry and you feel like a caged animal and you can't run away from this thing. You don't know what to do. Your whole world's imploding, right? But there's no emergency,
Right.
right? There's no one saying like, hurry up, we got to get this done, right? You have
Yeah.
time to make some decisions. You have time to interview some doctors,
Right.
and you if you go in to see a doctor, and I would say, get three, right? I mean, if you're
Mhm.
going to have your lawn worked on, you're going to get three different bids, right?
Right.
Okay, so this is more important than your lawn, right?
Mhm.
So get three bids, go to see three different people, ask them what their philosophy is, ask them how they, how they do what they do, and what, what their plan of attack would be,
Mhm.
right? And then go from there and picking the person that you want to work with.
Right.
I always, I talk about like your team, right? Like these are the people you're hiring to help you, right?
Mhm.
So as you're picking your team, right, like be very careful about who you hire, right? Because the most important thing is that this is for you,
Yeah.
right? And so, when you're interviewing your doctors, if you find a doctor that you are in complete odds with in terms of your philosophy of life and disease and healthcare, you might want to think twice,
Mhm.
because ultimately they may be a good doctor, but maybe their attitude and their philosophy is going to be counterproductive to what you believe. And
Right.
ultimately, that is not going to serve you. You want
Mhm.
someone there who maybe they don't have the warmest bedside manner, but they at least are there to be supportive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think listening to you is hugely important as well.
Yes,
You
that they're
know,
not discounting you.
absolutely. My
Yeah.
first oncologist was, you're taking tamoxifen, you're taking it. And I started taking it and I couldn't take it. It made me dizzy. I was disoriented. I couldn't drive a car. I could not take it. And in the meantime, she retired and I got referred to another oncologist who I absolutely worship the ground he walks on, because he was very open to alternative ways for me to take care of myself. I, again, didn't have to do chemo or radiation. So I, wanted to do supplements. I changed my diet. I did this, I did that. He was very open to that. I just had to go see him a little more often than I normally would, just so we could make sure that we were on the same page. And I totally respected that because he
Yeah.
listened to me. He understood what I wanted, and that I was open to listening to him as well. But we came to a mutual agreement. And that really helped me tremendously to be
And
able to
that's the
have
way
that.
it should be. It
Mm-hmm.
should be a partnership,
Yes.
because I think we also have this like very weird, strange idea of healthcare, right?
Mhm.
Like, doctors are people, right? So they're born babies just like we are, and they go to school and they learn a trade, medicine, right?
Mhm.
And they become a doctor. And so then when we have a problem, right, because I'm not a doctor, I can't, diagnose myself or whatever. For sure, or if I have a sinus infection, of course, I'm going to need a prescription. I'm going to need to go see a doctor. Okay, right.
Mhm.
So this we understand. But the idea here is that there's different ways to take care of these different problems. And I really do believe it should be a partnership, just like you said, where it is this marriage between, you know, their knowledge of medicine and your kind of, direction and desire for your own self in your life, right? That sense of autonomy. It's interesting when, and I ask this of my clients too, is, are you a passive receiver or are you an active participant in your care? Right? Because these are two totally different things. There are people who go to the doctor, who go to the oncologist, and they are active or passive receivers. They just go, whatever the doctor says, it's what they do. And, I don't know, do they hope for the best when they go home? I guess so.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are active participants, and they go in and they ask questions, and they want to formulate a plan together, or they say, this works for me, that doesn't work for me, or, I am scared of this treatment, let's do that instead. There's room for all of that. And Absolutely. That's why I say you have to advocate for yourself when you're picking your providers, because you want someone who's going to be a partner.
Oh, I think that's the most important thing at all. So as we start wrapping this up, obviously we're going to have Regina back because we've got so much more we want to talk about. We could talk for hours. I love advocating for yourself. I mean, I think that's the number one thing you need to do. And it's hard when you get that diagnosis, you feel like you've been hit by a Mack truck and you've got to, swim through all of this stuff. I personally feel like you should have someone there with you, whether it's a significant other, husband, spouse, whatever. And I know a lot of times it's hard to do that, but I think we can't stress enough right now, Regina, that you need to have someone there with you when you're going through all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
absolutely.
do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I always say, cancer is a team sport. It's not something that you do alone. And I feel sad and really bad for people who do have to do it alone. I hope that they have some kind of organizations, people helping them. But it is a team sport. It doesn't just affect you in your life. As a woman and as a mother and as a daughter and as a sister and as a friend, right? It doesn't just affect you. It affects everyone around you.
Exactly.
And that's why I always say it's a team sport, because you know what? You need people in your court. You need people on the field with you. You need people who are going to say, oh, you don't feel good today, don't worry, I'll make dinner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We stress this almost on every episode. We stress, being able to be there for someone. Well, Regina, thank you again. You will be back, just so you know. We'll have another episode. We'll do one again, but we will have everything in the summary and show notes. Regina is amazing. She's a nutritionist. She's a contributor on 9 News here locally in Denver, Colorado. She's got her program. So we'll have links to all of that stuff so that you guys can follow her and get in touch with her and just move forward with that. So Regina, thank you. Thank you again
so much, Michelle.
This was so informative. And again, we'll have part 2 and 3 and probably more from there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And you know what, if people really want to learn more about nutrition or just food in general, about how it affects them when they're going through treatment or even when they're, recovering, when they're a survivor, they could go to my my website has a whole page of all of my podcasts on there with my show notes as well. But also a particular episode that might be interesting to them is episode 35, where I talk about food rules versus food values.
Oh.
And, this is somewhere where we don't want to get hung up, the food rules versus the food values. Right. So it might just be something interesting for people to listen to.
Oh, I love that. I'll go check it out myself. That's
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay. Such an amazing time with Regina. So much great information. And I think we can all agree that we can use some more color on our plates. We have links and information where you can learn more about Regina and all the amazing things she is doing on our website at www.theboobreport.com/podcast episode 11 show notes. And a very big thank you to all of you for spending time with us today. Be sure to like and follow us, and definitely share the podcast with your friends. You can become an active listener and support this podcast by clicking on the podcast link on our website at theboobreport.com. Take care.